Hi guys, so I don't generally disagree with James O'Brien and agree with somebody who voted for Brexit, but I found myself doing that when he took a call from a man named Earl. The caller voted to leave back in 2016 and has since changed his mind. He believes that the Johnson government is not moving on the issue of refugees because of Brexit. James previously in the show read out the results of a poll that said that a majority of those who voted for Brexit support allowing Ukrainians to come to Britain. I'll explain why James may be wrong on this, but let's first listen to the exchange.
Why is this government, and let's say government because it's not necessarily the will of the people or the desire of the country, why is this government doing less for Ukrainian refugees than any other government in Europe?
Because it would have to go against the rhetoric of Brexit.
You do see that. As a Brexit voter, you see it going back to the control our borders, Farageist nonsense about keeping people out.
Unfortunately, there's a majority of people that now have to be swayed and change the ideology of...
Well, I don't know. You've changed your mind. I respect you for that. There's no point having a mind if you never change it. But I wonder whether people who were spooked by Syrians are prepared to explain why they'd be cool with Ukrainians. And I mean that most sincerely. 03456060973 is the number you need. It's 12 noon.
Now, the reason why James, I think he's getting the wrong end of the stick here, is that Brexiteers, I'm not talking about this man who's called, he's changed his mind, and I think he's right here, that it does come down to Brexit, about taking back control, about controlling our borders and all of this Farage rhetoric. But there's a massive difference in the eyes of Brexiteers. I'm talking about people who still cling to Brexit. There's a massive difference between refugees from Ukraine and refugees from Syria, and refugees from the Middle East in general, or refugees from Africa. So they'll view refugees from Ukraine in a very different way. Let's just be honest about it. And I think there's also another problem here. Another problem is that when we see images online, when we see images in the newspapers, when we see images on TV of war, there's a natural reaction to try and help. And I think the majority of people, even people who supported Brexit, when they see these images, are moved by that, and they want to help, and they're willing to open up the country to allow refugees in. But unfortunately, after a few days, after a few weeks, after a few months, that compassion is eroded. It's eroded by time, and it's eroded by politicians attempting to profit from the situation, and people in the media as well, trying to reinforce the anti-immigrant, anti-refugee rhetoric. And, you know, we've seen it in the House of Commons this week, where Sir Edward Lee stood up and talked about immigration when the issue is actually refugees. You know, we take in more immigrants than anyone else, which was a lie. We take in more refugees than anyone else. And him talking about how Lincolnshire has taken enough people from Eastern Europe, and how Britain attracts immigrants. Of course, the issue, once again, is not immigrants, it's refugees. And I'm afraid that James maybe is giving Brexiteers more credit than they're worth, because many of these people may be moved initially, but then later on, when they start listening to Farage about, well, we've done our bit, and, you know, the war is almost over, or, you know, these people need to go back, they'll jump on board that as well. So I think the man who called here, Errol, is correct. It is about Brexit and the Brexit mentality. And unfortunately, I think James is being a little naive. But I could be wrong here. Let me know in the comments. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.